Look at this. The tape recorder. It's running.
His mind and his body are working together. As he talks, he paints a picture with words and with gestures.
Take it easy, friend. We're doing the best we can to help you.
Yes, but where in the solar system could it have come from?
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give to be the truth?
Truth.
And Soul!
Truth and Soul Incorporated, the New Zealand advertising podcast.
Welcome to the second edition of Truth and Soul Incorporated, the New Zealand advertising podcast. Today, whenever your today might be, you get to hear from Regan Grafton, who is currently Chief Creative Officer of Stanley Street. Stanley Street claims to be New Zealand's newest independent agency, although it was until a couple of weeks ago Caitlin Jenner, or rather Ogilvy New Zealand. Anyway, I think you'll enjoy listening to Regan, who has produced some wonderful, highly awarded work for 3 different agencies. Have a listen and he will reveal the secrets to his success.
And Soul!
Today we have Mr. Regan Grafton, who came in at the last minute owing to a sudden withdrawal of somebody interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry about that, but completely unprepared. So forgive my monotone.
We're quite used to that. Now, Regan is currently, he's just changed jobs without moving agency. He's currently CCO, Chief Creative Officer, also known as Creative Director in the old days, of a brand new agency called
Stanley Street.
Previously known as
Ogilvy.
Ogilvy New Zealand.
Yeah.
Run for many years by Greg Partington.
Yes, that's correct.
And Regan is one of the quieter men of advertising. I think everybody's got quieter than the old days, but Regan's one of the particular, not as quiet as Gavin.
No, he doesn't. He
doesn't read your stall.
No.
But beneath that quietness, Regan has a wicked sense of humour and a really unpleasant streak, which comes out on occasion.
On occasion, yeah.
Anyway, Regan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Paul.
Which is known as Truth and Soul Incorporated,
Right.
which is about the people in and around New Zealand advertising. And so, Regan, how did you end up in your invidious role as?
How did I get into advertising?
How did you? What happened? What went wrong?
I did a design degree to start with, and during the second year you did work experience, and I did that at Design Works, and I realised that I was doing a design degree and I didn't really like the role of what a graphic designer did.
You got fired.
I got fired within a week. No, So in my third year, I did work experience at Mojo Advertising, and they're no longer around. But that was much more similar to what the course was about, which was much more about conceptual thinking. Like 90% of it was about conceptual thinking, and probably 10% of it was about the doing side of things. And so,
who was at Mojo then?
Ollie
Maisie?
Oliver Green.
Ollie Green.
Daryl Parsons. Wonkam.
Darren Wonkam. The man, the mystery.
The mystery, yeah. He was there. Even though, he kind of put me off advertising actually a little bit, but yeah.
So Mike O'Sullivan was running
Mike
it?
O'Sullivan was running it, yeah. And so, it was like loads of fun, and it was all about ideas, and that was like, okay, that set my path on I need to get into a creative department, and finished the degree, and found that I couldn't get into an advertising agency without an advertising creative book, even though I'd spent like 3 or 4 years doing a course and had a portfolio. I couldn't get a job.
That is something for young people out there. I'm not sure of the age of our listener, but in case he or she is a young person and you want to get into advertising, it's not enough just to be really smart and to know lots of things and to believe that you're good at it. You have to actually have a portfolio, which in the old days was a physical portfolio, a book that you carried around, but nowadays most people house them online.
Yeah. So then there was only one advertising course run by the industry called the Access Ad School, and there was a competition to get in. They ran the competition in the Herald. Basically, it was open to anybody to answer the creative brief, and the best ideas got in. So there was 20 people picked out of the country.
Who was running that then?
It was the industry, so it was the Access Awards industry,
So
Comms Council.
What is now the Comms Council. Yeah.
And I just missed that intake, so I had to wait another whole year. So I worked sort of proactively trying to do an advertising portfolio, and then entered the competition the next year and got in. And I think I came second in that course.
Always second.
Always second. And then still, I think it was a recession, still couldn't get a job. Worked for free for agencies for like another year, and then ended up having to take a job in a below-the-line agency called the Creative Partnership.
But it's something to note, people, that if you ever come across a business with the word creative in the title, you know that it isn't.
No, yeah, that's exactly right. So this was just like a promotional agency, and it was literally a sweatshop because it had no insulation in the room, and it was about 35 degrees inside, and it was Tony Cluett actually and myself, sitting in board shorts, working in 35-degree heat, and worked there for 9 months, and then the boss got done for embezzling, and
you can't get away with anything.
No.
Nanny state.
We had some pretty good parties. I wondered why the parties were so good. There was helicopters and shit. Yeah, it was good.
But who's he embezzling money from?
She had embezzled money. Yeah, in Australia. Yeah.
Oh, what, previously?
Yeah. The boss came over from Australia and said, if you don't turn up with a check for X amount of dollars, I'm taking it to the police. And she did. And then I found I was looking for another job, got a job at Y&R. But fortunately, I had a bit more. I had a bit of experience, and I had a good portfolio, and that made it a lot easier to get a job. I think once you got a foot in the door, I think that's the hardest thing: getting your foot in the door, getting that first job. If you've got a halfway decent book and you've got some experience, you're kind of away, really. I think
that, in a way, sums up the way that the industry is almost self-selecting to get on. I think in the creative advertising, you need to have a great attitude generally and be a really hard worker. And for you, so it took from going to college to having a job in an advertising agency, took what,
about
5 years?
3 or 4 years. Yeah,
probably,
right. Probably 4 years.
We did okay. College, then placements, then the other college, then yeah. So it's not easy.
Oh, you mean it was definitely a challenge, and you definitely have to go, I really want this.
Yeah.
And some people find it lucky, like some people just do a course and then get straight in.
The good people.
Yeah, the good people. And the not so good people like myself.
Yeah.
Have to plead. Yeah. And then I was hired as a retail art director at Y&R. And
who's in charge of Y&R then?
Gordon Clark.
Creatively Clarky, who unfortunately passed away.
Passed away. Yeah. So, but he was great, and I wanted to work on the brand briefs, and I just kept on asking for them, even though I was getting, kind of the retail drudgery. And I started winning awards for the agency off the proactive briefs that I was answering, and then I got taken off the retail work and put onto the brand work, and then after 4 years, I was made redundant because they lost half the clients.
Yeah.
And I went freelancing for a few months with my copywriter, and then I convinced you to hire me.
Your copywriter was Dan Moss?
Yeah, that's right.
So I seem to remember getting a call from Clarky, from Gordon Clark, who said, unfortunately, and this happens in the industry. I think anybody who might be listening to this going, oh yeah, advertising sounds like fun, will be put off it by now. Not only do you have...
I'm not painting a good picture, am I?
No, not only do you have to wait socks off for no money for all that time. Then when you get in, agencies kind of breathe in and out like lungs. When they have business, they expand, and when they lose business, they contract. And people will, even good people, will lose their jobs. There's
not so good people.
There's no, in your case, they just an excuse to get rid of some dead wood. But but you were very tenacious. You kept going. Because so I got a call from Clarky and said the people, and I actually remember looking at your book. Didn't you have a cat on a Jaguar?
I had a sleeping cat falling off a
Jaguar.
Yeah.
It was the scammiest thing I'd ever seen. But it showed a good attitude, and foolishly, I decided to hire you to work with Bridget.
That's right. Yeah. I worked with her for about 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
So this is Bridget Short,
Yep.
now Taylor,
Yep.
who was supposed to be here but isn't for various reasons. So how long did you guys work together?
Yeah, I think it was about 5 years, I think. And then she went to Singapore. And then I had the unfortunate experience of working with Hanko, Paul Hankinson. He's a great guy.
Paul Hankinson?
Yeah.
Is it a different one?
Yeah.
Hanko's a good guy, officially, and for an Australian.
Yeah, for an Australian, yeah. I mean, he kept on sort of picking his toes at his desk or scraping his neck DNA onto my keyboard. But apart from that, he was all right.
Very funny, very sharp, and he now lives in Dunedin, I think.
Yeah. Actually, I think Hawke's Bay.
Okay. He was
He's moved up. Yeah, was Dunedin, yeah.
To be close to Lorigan and Huel.
Yes. And Kim Ellison.
Yeah, so at 5 years at DDB New Zealand with Bridget, how was that?
That's good. Yeah, we did some great stuff together. We did the NZ Girl campaign, which was kind of like I suppose, one of the early sort of non-traditional advertising campaigns out of the country. So, yeah.
For those people who might not know of your earlier genius, Regan, could you describe that campaign?
It doesn't sound very sophisticated now, but we basically for NZ Girl, which is like a website for younger ladies,
girls.
Yeah. We ran a sort of like a worst boyfriend competition with the prize being a banner getting towed over the big day out, which had the chap who won it had Scott Kelly has a small dick, I think it said, was getting towed across an audience of about 40,000 people, and it made the news and headlines and went around the world, that little viral thing promoting that. There was a second plan that had the website for NZ Girl, Don't Mess with NZ Girls, I think was the campaign line.
So it was almost Back to the Future, but it was certainly non-traditional, using, had you advertise a website, obviously you tow a banner behind a plane. But it was making that film the case of the event, which then went on to various places.
Yeah, that's right.
So I seem to remember we had to, when I say we, you and Bridget had to smuggle a camera in to the Big Day Out.
Yeah, that's right.
Big Day Out Kids. That was what when we were kids we used to go to. It was big all day long concert in Auckland. Doesn't happen anymore, does it? No. But you weren't allowed to film, so we had to smuggle a camera in.
Can't remember how we did that, but
I think Bridget
you wore a very big hat.
Chatted up the security guard.
Yeah. So that was a really good piece of work, and we and then we worked on a couple of lotto campaigns when we picked up that piece of business, and I definitely had I was at DDB for about 9 years and was the creative director on lotteries for probably maybe 5 of those, and that was great fun. Making those ads.
Right, which is your favourite lotto ad?
We did the dog that jumped overboard to save the guy's ticket, and
Wilson.
Yeah.
You put put a dog in an ad.
Yeah, that's right.
You're there.
Yeah.
I don't know where you picked that up from.
I don't know. Yeah, I know. I remember trying to do that, I think, on an insurance ad, and I went all the way to the top guy, and the top guy on the client side, and he said, "No, don't like dogs. No one likes dogs," and he rejected the idea. I'm like, "Are you crazy? Everybody loves dogs."
Well, they don't, Regan, but they should.
They should.
I think that's
no, that's right. Yeah. How was George, by the way?
George, we haven't met Monty, have you?
No.
It's kind of George too. George Junior.
Oh, right.
So, I don't bring them here because there's a dog downstairs that they might get disruptive and rip apart, and I don't want Monty in here chewing through the cables. They're dummy cables. They're not there for any reason. But we're in a sound studio, folks, so we don't do that. So after 9 years at DDB, under the creative directorship, firstly of myself, then Mr. Toby Talbot.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, and then I went to FCB to be the ECD, joint ECD with Tony Cluett. So back working with Tony, he was at my first job.
So who hired you to do that?
James Mock.
Yeah.
So he moved to a regional role.
Yeah.
And they picked up Vodafone in New Zealand, so they were as Paul mentioned earlier, expanding rapidly because they picked up 2 large accounts.
Yeah.
And I was there for 4 years, and that was really, learnt heaps. Sort of going into that role, and working with some big clients. Got out that sort of Peggy Sue ad for Vodafone, which was quite good as well.
So following on from the success of the dog, you
used a pig, basically
moved up to a pig, or down.
4-legged things, people seem to like them.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, and it's quite useful because unlike dogs, you can like eat the pig afterwards if it.
Well, it seemed a bit wrong on set that they were serving sort of bacon and stuff. I don't know. I didn't think that was right.
Truth. And so.
Now, to me, one of the in the nearly 20 years I've been in New Zealand advertising, DDB kind of started 3/4 big and has just gone on to be
huge. Yeah.
Be a steamroller. Just carried on. Colenso creatively has been consistently excellent ever since the days of Mike O'Sullivan, and have carried on. Sarches have been in I guess slow decline over that time with a few highs and lows in the middle. But one of the biggest stories for New Zealand advertising, I think, was the rise of FCB. Yeah. Which when I came here was 3 people in a telephone kiosk.
Yeah.
And
now, right?
Yeah, and became to be one of the big 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks to you.
Oh, and Tony and a great creative team that we sort of.
I told you it was political. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a good.
Well, hang on, you've forgotten the planners, the suits, the management. Brian Crawford was the CEO, right?
But see, I think they were already known for being a great effective agency. So,
but they weren't very big.
No, but they were very sort of successful from an effectiveness point of view. So. Yeah. And that was sort of the missing part, was the creative side. So, that's kind of what sort of, I suppose, changed in sort of the perception of FCB over that time. Yeah, was the creative output.
And because I remember going to Cannes in about 2013, I think. Was that and so some of the campaigns was that the
dogs
driving dog?
Oh my God, I'm a one-trick pony. Haven't used ponies actually. Could use ponies. No, that was.
This podcast is entitled "The Importance of Animals in Advertising."
Yeah, read between the lines. Yeah, if you want to win awards, use animals. So we did a campaign for Mini and the SPCA. So they sponsored the SPCA. They gave about $10,000 a year.
Mini and the SPCA, not SPCA.
What's that? Mini and the SPCA, yeah. And they sponsored about $10,000 a year to the SPCA, and they wanted to get a bit more of a profile of that sponsorship. So we came up with this concept. Matt and Vegas was their idea, and it was
Vegas,
and Matt Williams. Yeah, and they came up with the idea of why don't we teach rescue dogs to do something that no other dog has ever done before, to show how intelligent and the potential that they have. Let's teach them to drive cars, but really drive cars, not sort of pretend. And so we found a place that fits out cars for people that are tetraplegics and paralyzed, to see if they could convert a car that a dog could drive with their paws. And it was a crazy journey with the client. They originally said, we'll divert some of the money from some dealership ads that we'd normally run, and just to have a bit of a play and an experiment, because we didn't know if it was actually going to work. And the animal trainer, Mark Vetti, he was sort of confident that he could train a dog to do it, although we found out afterwards that he thought that we were meaning like for an ad where they don't actually really drive it.
Right, yeah.
So he took on the job. He took on the job and then realised, no, this isn't going to be trick. The dog has to actually operate the pedals.
Yeah. And
so that was a great journey, and it built up a huge amount of sort of media PR along the way. And although one of the rehearsals when we were practicing with the dogs, even though a lot of the mechanics were quite sophisticated, there was a
coffee.
little foam block that was stopping the accelerator pedal from going all the way down, and we had like a remote controlled kill switch in case there was any sort of
So the
emergency.
dog went berserk.
Well, yeah, the foam block came out, and the dog just floored it, and it was it was supposed to only go a maximum of 15 kilometers an hour, and suddenly the dog shot down the thing going 80 k's an hour down the road. We're like, oh, fuck! Press the kill button and cut the power on the car. But shit, if we didn't have that remote kill switch, we probably would have one less dog. Yeah.
That would have been funny. So I guess it must have been great for Mark Vetty, because he must have got.
Oh yeah, he was like interviewed all around the world. He was like, in many ways it launched lots of people's careers. That job, he got a TV.
Dog is now Formula One.
Yeah, that's right. He got a TV series out of it.
Yeah.
So I think he was already had a high profile, but he was definitely like fielding news interviews from every news organisation around the world about that.
It's funny that in a country the size of New Zealand, you have one job. No, you have, like, we have the Squid Man, just known as the Squid Man, one of the world's leading experts in squid, and we have like one guy who trains. In another podcast, talked to Mike Watson, Sky.
Right, yeah.
We talked about the Lions ad, where we were filming the lions in the cage, and again Mark Vetty was involved with that. I'm not quite sure how you go from dogs driving cars to lions watching TV, but he seems to know stuff.
Yeah.
He also, I think it was him who did an ad for us where we had a duck, who did an ad for Pizza Hut where a duck had to sit in a chair and answer questions, and he trained a duck. Who knew you could train ducks?
Sounds like we do a lot of ads with animals.
Yes, between us. So that, as you probably remember, Regan, I'm not as award obsessed as some individuals in the industry, but driving dogs went on to do hugely well at Cannes, did it not?
Yeah, we had a couple of. We also did that Secret Diary of a Call Girl that year as well. So
that was Huel's scam. Oh no, that was for Sky. That's
yeah.
Oh, was it Prime?
It was for Prime, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think both of those, I think we picked up maybe 14 lines, 14 lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was pretty crazy. It was about sort of a year and a half into being at FCB, and so they, I think they won Agency of the Year, campaign brief Agency of the Year.
Yeah.
The following year and stuff like that. Yeah.
Which was, like I say, incredible for an agency that had a reputation as a building where they made ads, but to become a large creative powerhouse and to challenge DDB and Colenso was pretty amazing. So where did it all go wrong?
I don't know. It's all been going downhill since then. Yeah. It was a good journey, definitely. But I mean, it's always that hard thing. So I think I admire about Colenso is they're quite consistent, right? They year after year will have one, if not two, amazing bits of work going out. So it's I think that's kind of a testament to them, is that they don't sort of peak and trough. They really are quite a consistent.
It's true.
Sort of delivery.
Because you look at Y&R, who, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago with their Big Mac Burger King thing, McWhopper at D&AD won Agency of the Year at D&AD. Now, coming from London, D&AD was way bigger than Cannes was, like a peripheral little nothing. D&AD was a big thing. For a New Zealand agency to be Agency of the Year at D&AD is absolutely
that's
incredible.
Crazy.
Absolutely incredible. And I guess that it was around that time, and I suspect that New Zealand might have fallen off it a bit. It was in those few years that New Zealand was, in terms of creative awards, per capita, at least the
we always like doing that, don't we? Using the per capita thing. Yeah, quite good.
I think it's legitimate.
It is.
I like using it because I have a stronger grasp on statistics than most creatives, I feel.
Well, it makes it even better if you kind of go that pretty much all the industries in the North Island. So then you could.
Well,
yeah.
Well, actually, they're kind of mainly, but they're on a line between Parnell and Ponsonby.
Yeah.
And anything outside that.
Well, Clemes Wellington as well.
Yeah, that's true. I'll have to get somebody up from Clems. cycle up here. That would be handy. So after the dogs and the call girl, that was radio, right?
Yeah.
That's radio. Yeah.
What else have I done?
Second. Yeah. What happened? What happened after that? When things started going wrong.
Yeah, so I went to Ogilvy, and I suppose some of the more interesting work we've been pumping out of there has been for police recruitment.
Yeah.
So
you went to what year did you go to Ogilvy?
maybe 2016.
So about 3 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and how did that come about? What were they looking for?
They were looking for a new person to run their creative. So they've been looking for about 10 or 12 months for a new person to lead that team. And so, I was sharing a joint role.
They asked everyone.
They asked everybody.
And everyone else said no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I was doing a joint role, ECD role, at FCB. So the appeal of going to having, no one, not sharing that role and not having anyone above me was appealing. So, yeah.
So how are you finding that now that you get it's your train set, as always?
Yeah.
You control it to a large extent if you have an agency leader, CEO, managing director who is, and you're both working on the same towards the same end. That's fantastic. But the buck stops with you, and if things aren't. If the work coming out is not great, then it's down to you. There's nobody else to blame. And
no, that's right.
The work coming out of Ogilvy has been rubbish. No, I'm joking.
I think I think actually the experience at FCB was invaluable because James was really good at making Tony and I switch from thinking around everything around creativity to actually thinking around the client's business. So I think as you kind of step up in the ranks within the creative sort of field, you actually need to realize that you have to become more of a business person and have and care about the client's business, not so much about just the work, because you can be more indulgent when you're younger in your career and you're trying to build your creative profile. But in reality, if you're doing that as a creative director or an ECD or whatever, you're going to come unstuck because it's much more than that, and you've got to be pragmatic and professional and realize when you need to just push a project through. The client might be completely dictating something, and you've got to maintain that client relationship and be very professional and say, yeah, we can do that, no problem at all. And it's a percentage game, and probably in all agencies probably only the 3 or 5% of the jobs are the ones that they get famous for, and the rest of the work is just not spectacular professional work, and that you've got to know how to manage that through, because you've got to obviously fight for the ones that you know that are going to be high profile, but the rest need to be professional about it.
I kind of learnt that very young. I wasn't working at Saatchi's, but I had a girlfriend who was. She was in the finance department, so you find out some interesting things from there. But Saatchi's in London, which were regarded at the time, this is like the early mid-90s, as one of the most creative agencies in not just in London, but in the world. But they'd win a lot of plaudits for their work for, say, British Airways, but most of the money was coming in through things like Currys and Dixons, which are electric retailers, which would have a full-page newspaper ad in most of the English papers every single day of the year. And that's where the money came from. But it's rather sad. It's something that I've worked on with the guys at Barnes Campman, BC&F Dempsey, over the years, and when it was Barnes Campman Friends, that we should all be going in the same direction. And when we were at DDB, I remember you and Bridget, you were trying to make a name for yourselves, and we'll come up with all manner of convoluted scams that
involving animals.
Come on, guys. Yeah. and because my view at DDB, we had some great clients, and you hopefully you remember me saying this, that we have Sky, who are like the one of the best, most creative clients in New Zealand, and Volkswagen, which we won through the pitch And those clients will give us the opportunity to do wonderful work. We don't really need to do scams.
No, I think that was the great thing that you used to always say is that, and it was true, like DDB has you don't actually need to do proactive work or scam work at DDB, because even the bad briefs that were coming across our desks were considered opportunities at other agencies. There was just a luxury of briefs coming through. You didn't need to kind of have to do the other sort of stuff. So,
but it's like having a rugby team. So we'll talk in rugby analogies.
Yeah,
where all the wingers care about is scoring tries, and it's wrong, really.
Yeah.
But that's how people get rewarded. It's a bit out of kilter.
It is.
Whether or not that will be redressed, I don't know.
You're listening to Truth and Soul.
Now it's your train set, and you can do. So you got Lisa and Jono in to do the work while you go to lunch. Is that?
It's pretty much, and do podcasts and things like that.
And get some more animals in your ads. So whilst you've been at Ogilvy, some of your most, because as creative director, I think it's important. Some creative directors, I think, seem to forget this. I'm not mentioning any names, but what's important is that you get the work out, not that it has your name on it. When I first became a creative director, I actually asked Mike Cousins, who was my old creative director from London, very famous guy back in the day, what to do. And he said, hire good people and leave them alone. Which I obviously ignored because I got you in and hassled you all the time. And he said, your name is on it as creative director. There's no need to have your name on it as writer, art director. No. And
there's a few creative directors around town that are still kind of putting themselves down as credits, aren't they?
Yeah. And Regan will now run through a list of those, which we will edit out.
Starting with
later.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to learn. So, how did you manage to get that really interesting work through the police? And you're going to tell me now it's a great client. But
Yeah, it was actually. I mean, I reckon all the great work that comes out of agencies tends to be the clients that want to do it. It is the great client that is the gatekeeper. Yeah, that goes yep or no, and your chance of doing. If a client's work is not very good, you have to blame the client. Don't blame the agency, because if the client's not getting good work out of the agency, go to another agency. Yeah. No, usually it's the taste of the client and the how bold they're wanting to be, and I think that's why the police work was interesting for the rest of the world, because the police organisations tend to be quite conservative and sort of straight. Yeah. And the police in New Zealand, they were already sort of dabbling in social media, but they don't have huge budgets, and they knew
blow on the pie, was that?
Yeah. They've had lots of little things that have been like they had the sort of dancing cop and things like that. So they knew that if they could harness social media and create PRable ideas, then they were going to get a lot more bang for their buck. So so they kind of were already in that sort of zone, and so putting those ideas in front of them, they were great to work with. Bought them, did everything in their power to sort of make them as good as they could be. So it was, and then really successful for them. So they've had sort of great effectiveness out of the few campaigns we've done for them. Yeah.
So you had the kid going through the rubbish bins on K Road.
Yeah.
So I think that was based on an incident when we used to go to Mercury Plaza every day for lunch. But, yeah.
That's another story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was setting up sort of, do you care enough to be a cop? Trying to get people to talk to people that were, the few people that walk down the street and actually notice things in their communities that aren't quite right. And those are the type of people that we wanted to talk to become police officers, people that have empathy and it wasn't shifting the conversation away from the physicality of the job and it being around a masculine thing, so turning it into more an emotive thing, trying to attract more females and people that would normally go into maybe social work or teaching, because they're actually the skills that they wanted in the police. So yeah, I think that was pretty effective. I think it boosted applications by about 30%, and then we did that the next year, the most entertaining recruitment video, which was around kind of addressing the barriers that were holding people back from applying. So the roles that they didn't realize there was so many roles that you could do, and that the pay was actually quite good. And so we kind of created this police chase that kind of highlighted everything. And yeah, I think that delivered a month's worth of inquiries in the first 24 hours after that launched. Had about a 615% increase in diverse profiles, and sort of like smashed all of the things that they were wanting to do.
Well, as you probably know, Regan, I'm all about effectiveness, and that's a fantastic example of something that is creative being effective as well. And I guess it would have got a few YouTube views.
Yep, yeah, I don't know how they worked out that. 12,
15,
12, yeah, it was a few people in the South Island saw it too. Yeah. Outside of the Ogilvy IPO. Yeah. I think it's something like 90 billion or something reach. I don't know how they work that thing out, but it's like it was a
they just lie. They have someone in a cupboard who thinks up
thinks up these numbers. I don't know how they work it out, but the company spits it back and says it reached this many people. But yeah, it went. It was successful. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting that the public's view of the police, because they kind of have two views which are held at the same time, but which are completely opposite. I.e., you see the policeman who pulls you over for going at 62 in a 50 limit or something. People are, why are you wasting your time pulling this over? There's criminals out there. You're useless. Or there's the occasions of police brutality, which is everyone on their back. But then if you're walking down a street late at night in the dark and there's some threatening people, who do you want to see?
Yeah.
Not you, that's for sure.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give to be the truth?
So, Regan, what do you hope to achieve with Stanley Street?
Oh, yet to see. It's kind of an interesting time.
And am I allowed to ask how that came about? Because for those people who don't know, Ogilvy New Zealand had existed for
30 years. I don't know.
A long time, and then it was basically management buyout.
Yeah, it was. So it's been happening over the last sort of 10 months. So Greg has quite a big dairy farm up in Wellsford.
Yeah.
And he banks with the ASB. Yeah. And the ASB don't do the business side of his banking, like the agency side of the banking. They only have his farm side. Yeah. And anyway, they came in with this proposal. It was interesting because, agencies love to do, a 50 slide pitch presentation. Yeah. These guys turned up with a A3 bit of card printed on two sides and basically said, this is this funding concept from Singapore that we're thinking of bringing into the country, and this is basically what you could do with it. And they said, for example, if you use this funding concept, you'd be able to buy your agency back. And he was like, oh, really? I never thought I'd be able to do that. And you're like, so this is how it could work. And so he was like,
so bank fraud is
basically yeah. And so it's that's basically the start of the process. And I think WPP first said no, and
because there's two parties to this. Obviously, you're. I mean, as I understand it, Greg's a shareholder. Was a big shareholder of Ogilvy, but if they hold the majority of it.
Yeah, they hold the majority.
He says, I want to buy the rest of it. And they go, well, it's not actually for sale. Yeah. End of conversation.
Yeah, because they're also the most profitable WPP agency in the market, and most of the others are
not a long list.
Yeah, no, they've all been kind of merging and things like that in New Zealand. So that it would have been a tough argument to get to lose the most profitable agency in New Zealand. But I think
most profitable WPP
agency. WPP agency. That's correct. But it was. Greg wrote individually to every single board member, and had his angle as to why, and they eventually came around. So
Every Ogilvy board member?
with WPP AU.
Yeah. Who are an interesting organisation, I've heard.
Yeah. So and everything was kind of primed. I think as soon as the finally got signed, the agency was sort of changed over within a week.
Yeah, it seemed to be. I understand with these things that there's a lot going on in the background before it finally happens.
Yeah,
but it's a pretty.
Yeah, people thought it was a bit the rest of the agency that didn't quite know what was going on. I think they.
You mean the creative department?
Yeah. All the reds getting painted out like a few weeks beforehand.
Yeah, all the what's getting?
The red from Ogilvy's internally is getting all taken down and replaced, and people would have been going, what's going on?
Yeah, what's your new colour?
Yeah, it's black and white.
Black and white, okay. Is that you get your cheaper paint? Probably
cheaper paint, yeah. And kind of like, I suppose, it was a little nod to sort of, I suppose, Greg's business approach. He's kind of a black and white personality. He's like, there's no sort of grey with Greg. If you're on the money or not.
Now, one last question, Regan. You're an art director.
Yeah.
Who are generally thought of as being intellectually inferior to the copywriters. I think you'll agree with that,
yeah, definitely.
So has that been? Have you found being ECD and unable to write, has that held you back at all? Or?
So not very good at art direction either. So it's it's unusual that I've lasted this long.
Did you?
Yeah. No, I don't know. At FCB, James Mock was art director and Tony Cluett was an art director. So
really,
it was really the tables have turned against copywriters, it seems. So.
Okay, yeah. I thought that's why I'm sort of shuffling quietly to one side in the business.
Yeah.
Anyway, Regan, thank you so much for coming in.
That's
and
all right.
Sharing some stuff. We'll edit out any of that business stuff if we're not allowed to say it.
No, I think it's all fine.
But good to catch up. Thanks, mate.
No worries.
You've been listening to
Truth
and Soul,
the New Zealand Advertising Podcast.
Okay, list of credits. Thank you very much to this week's guest, whoever he, she, or it might be. If you liked it, drop us a line, paul@truthandsoul.co.nz. Thank you very much to everyone at Franklin Road, Jonathan, Cole, the Wastrel, Shane, Vanessa and Gracie, Otis, who did the logo, and Matt Stalker, who's going to play us out. Thank you.
On the Farewell Drive, we found 100 ways that our hands fit together. Centrifugal force pulls us apart as we spin. Please forgive my trembling hands, crudely silhouetted by the flickering spires of candlelight, while the wicked sleep sound. The anxious toss and turn, thoughts come not as single spies, but in battalions, while the wicked sleep sound. The anxious toss and turn. And it's at times like these that we understand our Father's fascination with dendrology. The family tree is losing its leaves. Please forgive my trembling hands, crudely silhouetted by the flickering spires of candlelight, while the wicked wicked sleep sound. The anxious toss and turn, thoughts come not as single spies, but in battalions, while the wicked sleep sound. The anxious toss and turn.